And we are live here on a Monday night, March 9th, I think it is. Not really sure, whatever. But we are going to be talking about what's going on in Maryland. I'm from Virginia. Maryland's just right up the road from me since I'm in Northern Virginia, the cesspool. And we are going to be talking to Mike from the Free State Podcast, who does a lot of stuff with Maryland. See John Voorhees out there. Hey, John, what's up? So let me introduce you. This is Mike. He runs a podcast called the Free State Podcast, which you can find on Podbean and a bunch of other places as well. I think Spotify is one of them, if I'm not mistaken. So how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me on. Podbean is where I host. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube. I'm still hung up waiting for iTunes to approve my album art, but as soon as that gets approved, it'll be on there too. So yeah, I am a resident of Maryland. I've been dealing with Maryland politics my entire life. Got a little more active. I was motivated by Second Amendment stuff when I first turned 18. We were dealing with our first assault weapons ban here in Maryland. And that got passed against the will of a lot of people here. And I've just sort of been sort of involved ever since then.
Okay. So the assault weapons ban, that is one of the most restrictive in the nation. Is it
Yeah,
not?
it is. So this is all going back to 2013. They passed a bill. It was Senate Bill 281, SB 281, and they called it the Firearms Safety Act of 2013. And it was super, super restrictive. It bans over 50 guns by name, anything from AK-47s, AR-15s. I mean, it's a whole laundry list of stuff. And then it also goes on to ban any copycat weapons that are copycats of the banned guns. And when they do that, they do it with a feature test as well. And that's how they decide what an assault weapon is and what you're not allowed to have here.
What's the feature test?
So it's kind of silly. I mean, to anyone who knows firearms, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it's things like AR-15s in the state of Maryland. If you didn't own it prior to the ban being passed, you're not allowed to purchase it, construct it, take possession of it, anything like that. If it has anything like if it's semi-automatic and it's like a black scary gun and has a what we would call like a government profile AR-15 barrel, they say it like those government profile barrels can take grenade launchers, and they were worried about grenade launchers being mounted on AR-15s. Now, there's a loophole in the bill where an AR-15 with a heavy barrel is currently cash and carry like any shotgun or anything else in the state. So they banned everything except the heavy barrel variants.
That is unusual.
Yeah, we didn't say they were smart or particularly good at what they do. It was a pretty sloppy attempt. The guys from Maryland Shall Issue, which is a group that it was started to make Maryland a shall issue concealed weapons permit state, has sort of taken up the mantle on all things 2A, and they were super, super involved with testimony and getting people organized back then. And those guys are super, super knowledgeable on stuff like that here.
Yeah, very interesting. So when did the wheels come off of Maryland and it start going towards anti-2A stuff, do you think?
So historically, if you look at, I mean, voting records or anything, Maryland's always been a very blue state. Historically, that's been pretty anti 2A. We didn't have anything super restrictive though until SB 281. That was sort of when the floodgates opened. Firearms Safety Act of 2013. That's when the whole train sort of went off the rails. And because we've been gerrymandered so badly here, there's almost nothing that people can do voting wise to combat it.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Maryland seems to elect Republican governors a lot, but I guess it's just the way that it's districted that the
Yeah.
Republicans can't get control.
So one of the episodes I did, I think it was like maybe 2 episodes ago, I did a full episode on gerrymandering and sort of how they've done the districts here in Maryland. It's to the point that one, I think it's District 4, is at one point only 200 feet wide, and it's the width of a racquetball club parking lot to connect a very blue area of a county to override all the red voters in that county as well. Um, we do have Governor Hogan in office right now. He was reelected for his second term, which is unheard of for Maryland, is reelecting a Republican, a governor. Um, he is he's not an enemy of the Second Amendment. Like, he's not actively out there trying to help the guns get banned and stuff like that. But he's by no means a huge advocate. A lot of people call him a rhino Republican in name only. So he's not hurting us, but he's certainly not helping us.
What would you like to see him do?
Well, for starters, I mean, to be fair, he has done some stuff. We have something here in Maryland called the Handgun Permit Review Board, and in Maryland, what we have is a May issue system for concealed carry permits in the state of Maryland. And what that means is you have to meet all of their requirements. You have to be 21. You have to take a class. You have to pass your background check and yada, yada, yada. But then on top of that, you have to provide what they call a good and substantial reason to be uh, given the privilege of carrying a handgun on your person here in Maryland. And a lot of guys will say, hey, these good and substantial reasons, just say you want it for self defense. And the Maryland State Police, which is the organization here that makes those decisions, says it is not a good enough or substantial enough reason. Self defense doesn't count. And so, if your permit is rejected or overly restricted, if you do by like some miracle get it granted, and you wanted to appeal that decision, you would go to a civilian oversight board called the Handgun Permit Review Board. This is a group of civilians that were appointed by the governor and would override the state police if they were being overly restrictive. The Maryland General Assembly found out that there was a high turnover rate of Maryland State Police decisions by this permit review board and passed a bill essentially dissolving it last session. Governor Hogan vetoed that bill, and because we're so gerrymandered, I think it was the first day that session of the 2020 General Assembly session, they overrode his veto and dissolved the board.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, and so it's it's definitely not, it's bad for morale to watch stuff like that go down out here. And what I'd like to see Hogan do is take a real firm stance and dig his heels in on some stuff like this. But when they're overriding his vetoes anyways, it's not like there's much he can do.
Wow. So is there any hope for Maryland at all?
Governor Hogan, he's been a real advocate for trying to fix gerrymandering in the state. He's called for bipartisan or nonpartisan commissions to come in and redraw the district lines. We had a case go all the way to the Supreme Court in 2017 about the 2010 redistricting after the 2010 census. And the Supreme Court said, you know what? It's not the court's business. This is up to the states. The states need to come up with their own solution. Governor Hogan's a huge advocate for that. The Democrats don't want that, of course, because it would mean giving up their iron fist on the throne of the General Assembly.
Wow, that sounds real sketchy.
Yeah, it's tough. It's I've lived here my entire life, and I love Maryland. It's really a super beautiful state. You have a ton of stuff to see and go do. You have mountains out west, you have the beach out east, and all the agricultural farmland on the eastern shore. But I, like many others, am planning my exit because just can't stand to live in such a liberty-hating state.
Yeah, you are currently in college, right?
I am. So I went back to school a couple of years ago. I'm in my senior year now. I'm finishing up my degree in political science.
Are you gonna get into politics at all?
I will never run for office. I'll never hold an office. That's not something I want to bring on myself or my family and friends and stuff like that. All that scrutiny. But I definitely want to be uh, part of the process as far as crafting policy, sort of crafting legislation. Uh, as slimy of a word as lobbying is, maybe that's where my future lies.
Huh, I lobby. So don't don't call us slimy, man. Not everyone who lobbies is slimy. Just a
Yeah,
lot.
they get a bad rap.
Majority. No, not really.
Oh,
So Maryland's in a little bit worse shape than Virginia. Um, when when you saw what was happening in Virginia, did you ever wonder why that didn't happen in Maryland? Like with the people rising up and stuff like that?
it did not on the scale and not as broadly as it did in Virginia. Maybe here in Maryland, we sort of felt we were so downtrodden already, like it was hard to get people motivated to show up. But there were about 4,000 of us that showed up in downtown Annapolis, outside the Senate office buildings and in Lawyers Mall there, and the legislators just didn't care. They didn't listen. We were out there all day long on what was gun bill day back then, and they just didn't care. And following that, I think it was a huge blow to morale in Maryland, and people just sort of lost their zeal from there.
Yeah. Maryland used to have a gun bill day where we would hear all the gun bills at one time. That's not the case anymore, right?
That's correct. So originally we had gun bill days where they would hear every bill regarding firearms legislation, whether it was pro 2A stuff that had been submitted, anti 2A stuff that had been submitted, sort of stuff that you'd be indifferent to. It was just a minor tweak. And what it did was it allowed crowds of 4,000 people to show up. And what's tough about that now is they've spread it out where they've been having gun bill hearings since January 26th, I believe. And tonight is March 9th, and they just had another one. Um, and it makes it hard to get large crowds out there because people can't take off multiple times a week. It's, Monday night, and at 9:30 they were holding a hearing in the Senate here. Well, people have lives and people can't always make it to stuff like that. And so they're smart at what they do. These politicians, when if you want to sort of tamp down and clamp down on shows of solidarity or anything like that, you spread it out so that people can't be there.
Yeah. John Voorhees wants to know if Gary Willis was from Maryland, and yes, he was. He was the guy that got red flagged and killed by police.
Yeah, so that was I think the first and only death so far, as far as red flag warrants being served here in Maryland. Here in Maryland, they're called ERPOs, Extreme Risk Protective Orders, and Gary Willis was actually a resident of the county I live in, and so the Anne Arundel County Police Department went to serve a red flag warrant on him. He answered I think they were at his house. I think it was like 5:15 in the morning.
It was.
Rainy day, still dark. He answered the door with a firearm in his hand to defend himself. Saw that it was the police, set the gun down. They told him that they were there to take his guns, at which point he picked his back up. To hear the police say a struggle ensued. And, tragically, he was shot and succumbed to his wounds.
Yeah. Night Strike wants to know if Virginia fought back so hard because they still see themselves as part of the South and Southern values. I think it was more they saw someone coming from out of town, Mike Bloomberg, and trying to buy the state. But that's what I think. So you said there was a thing going on tonight in the Maryland Senate. What was that?
Yeah, so there was a bill. I covered this in one of my earlier episodes when I first started doing the roundup on gun legislation for this session, and this was filed as House Bill 4 and cross-filed as Senate Bill 208. And this was a bill that targeted long guns, so rifles and shotguns, which currently have no background check for a private sale. The way it is in most states in the country, the way it is at the federal level, if you and I met up and you liked a shotgun that I had, I could just sell it to you, cash and carry, nothing to worry about. Uh, Maryland has decided that they don't like that. They think it's dangerous because you could be selling a gun to someone who shouldn't have it, and so this bill passed out of the House over to the Senate, and the Senate at 9:40 tonight. I was listening to the live session. Passed it, and I think it passed 32. I can pull it up real quick. Yeah, it passed 30-14. I think it was a party line vote.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what this bill would do is there's provisions for if you're selling to immediate family members, you don't have to go through this. But if it's not an immediate family member and you want to transfer a gun, gift a gun, sell a gun, transfer possession of a gun to someone, you have to go to an FFL or a state police barracks and have a background check run on the person you're transferring the firearm to.
Now, is there any type of two-way sanctuary movement going on in Maryland, or not
Yeah,
really?
there is. I think so. It's going sort of county by county, the way you saw in Virginia. It's not nearly as broad of a movement, and I think that's just because there's not nearly as many people who care um, or see the point. So, give me just a second. I'm going to pull it up. They had their first meeting last Friday for Anne Arundel County, and it's a good group of guys trying to get something going, but Maryland is by no means firearm friendly, even at the more local county level. Um, and so the county executive, Stu Pittman, is super, super anti gun as well for Anne Arundel County. So I don't really, yeah, I can appreciate the sentiment and I really, really like that there's some traction there, but I don't see it going anywhere.
No, I gotcha. I gotcha. In Virginia, it's all the rage.
Yeah, man, that guy on Instagram, Trigiconch, is has really blown up and done a good job of getting people motivated to show up and show out and really call their sheriffs, their deputies, and other people and get a sanctuary movement started.
Yeah, Chintrakonch is a good guy. I was hanging out with him last weekend, in fact.
Oh,
And
was that the Fauquier County rally?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I think he might be coming on the show next week if he can work it out he's getting married a week from Saturday. So if he's not too busy, he's going to be on the show next week.
Well, that's awesome, man. I know Mrs. Trigiconch is very receptive to his two-way shenanigans, so hopefully he can get it worked out and come on the show.
Yeah, see Kermit Love Bacon out there, Nike Strike, who runs gun2.org. The Tyven from the Tyven show is out there. A lot of people are out there right now. Yeah, Maryland is kind of a interesting state because if you go out to like Frederick, Maryland, and Annapolis, which aren't far away from each other.
It's about an hour. It's about an hour.
It's about an hour, but it's like being in like a totally different world.
Oh, definitely. In Maryland, if I don't know how y'all do it in Virginia. Out here in Maryland, if you ask a Marylander where they're from, they'll generally tell you what county, and you can sort of get a feel for what sort of person they are or where they might live based on that. Montgomery County borders DC, super, super blue. And then you have Anne Arundel County, which is sort of a mix. And then Eastern Shore, pretty hardcore red counties out there. And Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, just sort of these little blue pockets sprinkled through, for sure.
It's very, very interesting. Now, what other type of gun laws have passed this session?
Whew. All right, so I have a tracker running right now. I track stuff that I think is important. Um,
And you
most
also bought clips, so you can play those whenever
What's
you.
that?
You also brought clips. I'm not really sure what the clips are of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so
you can play that whenever you
yeah,
cross anything with it.
so we were talking about that bill tonight, House Bill 4, Senate Bill 208 that just got passed, and I know a lot of people don't have time to listen to the live legislative meetings or committee meetings. They certainly might not have time to go down there. So I pulled a couple of clips from Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, who is a super anti 2A, probably the most vehemently anti gun person downtown in Annapolis right now. And she sponsored this bill, House Bill 4, Senate Bill 208. And throughout the hearings, she said some really, really, what I thought seemed crazy and outlandish stuff. So I'll play this first one. This is from a committee hearing, I think the first committee hearing of the bill. And this clip that I'm playing is an excerpt from a video that Maryland Shall Issue has on their YouTube. So if you want to hear the whole thing, go check it out there. But here's the first clip.
They would not loan it out. That's covered under general common sense. So a background check is an invasive process. I'll be perfectly honest. I have a top secret security clearance from the federal government. The background check process at any level, whether it's for firearms or the one that I
I'm
passed.
going to stop you because I don't want you to insult myself or anyone up here referring to common sense, because everybody sitting up here does have common sense. So thank you, though, for responding. How much are you spending on ammunition annually?
So that little clip right there, that was an exchange from the male you heard speaking was Michael Dougherty, who is from Maryland State Rifle and Pistol Association, and that female voice was Delegate Atterbury. And Mr. Dougherty, you heard say like, "Hey, I've got a top secret clearance. It's background checks are invasive. It's an invasion of privacy, and I don't think we need them every time there's a private transfer of a firearm." He called that common sense, to which she sort of got a little pissed about that. She didn't like the implication that those on the panel from the committee didn't have common sense, which I found ironic, just given the number of times I hear phrases like common sense gun control thrown around. And so that's the first clip, and the second clip here is another really, really common argument you hear from gun grabbers, which is if you aren't doing anything wrong, you should have nothing to worry about.
Between 2013 and 2017, there were 30 documented murders by individuals who killed someone with a shotgun. So we need to stop saying, that crimes don't happen with long guns. It's not sexy. It's not in the news. It's often individuals who are subjected to domestic violence, but it happens. And I'm sure their families will thank all of us if we pass this piece of legislation. A lot has been made of this legislation would hurt law-abiding citizens. Well, if you're a law-abiding citizen, then you should have no problem going and getting a background check because you'll pass it. You're a law-abiding citizen. And actually, this piece of legislation will protect you to make.
So if you're a law-abiding citizen, you should have nothing to fear because it's a background check and you'll pass it. I don't know. These are the these are the arguments that are getting these bills passed. That bill just passed out of the Senate tonight. It's previously passed out of the House, so I'm sure it's going to go to the governor's desk just like that. So
Do you think he's going to veto it?
What's that?
Do you think he's going to veto it?
So Governor Hogan, he's had his 2 terms as governor here in Maryland. There's talk that he might want to be lining himself up for a 2024 presidential run. So he's positioned himself really, really well as this more centrist, moderate Republican. He's definitely not a Trump Republican. He doesn't really tailor his argument too much to the fringes of either side of the aisle. So I don't know. He might do it to try to garner some support, knowing that they'll override his veto anyway next session. He also might not veto it so that he can get some of the more centrist Democrat vote in 2024. It's better for his record.
Yeah. Tyvin was bringing up the guy. I'm not sure if you've been following it. Hollow points are illegal in New Jersey, and the security guard was pulled over, and he had hollow points, which was a critical duty. Yeah,
the plastic tip stuff, right?
Yeah, it's critical duty. Which, if you read the New Jersey law, it actually names critical duty as being legal.
Huh. I haven't. I don't by any means know the full details of the case. I did read it, and the one thing that I'm sort of glad about here in Maryland is we don't have crazy ammo laws like that yet.
They're coming.
Oh, I'm sure. So House Bill 4 is the transfers bill. There are currently, I'm tracking 52 bills right now. There's more than that. I know Maryland Shall Issue has a super comprehensive tracker. I just don't have enough free time between work and school to track as many as they do. So I sort of picked my top 50. Let's see what else is important here. There was House Bill, I think it was 1261, which has been withdrawn. 1261 was another super infringing gun ban. It would have cleaned up the rest of what SB 281, the Firearms Safety Act of 2013, missed. Fortunately, they withdrew that, so that's not going to be going anywhere this year. Another big one, if you're a firearms dealer in Maryland, or you think you might want to be, is House Bill 1257. This bill puts a huge financial burden on gun stores, gun shops, FFLs, and also creates a de facto gun registry that the state of Maryland can access at any time.
Yeah, gun registries always lead to gun confiscations. Kermit Loves Bacon wants me to play this video. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but let's watch it together. And then we can decide what we think about it. So
All right.
give me 1 second. Let me go over here.
Hunting and fishing. What other memberships, like club memberships, do we tax in the state?
Generally, the club memberships are not taxable under Rhode Island law.
Is there a rationale?
Unless they're bundled with a taxable good. There are certain memberships that you can buy that include delivery charges and service charges for that. So it's a fact-based analysis based on Supreme Court precedent. It's called the real object test. So it's a multi-factor analysis, which is why I'm trying to be careful.
I understand.
Yeah.
So if I want to join a gym, that's not taxed.
Not currently.
Correct.
No.
If I want to board a horse at a barn and use the
Correct.
facilities, that's not taxed. So what's the rationale for taxing hunting and fishing?
To stop people from owning guns.
So the rationale is that this is really a policy position of the administration.
Well,
Yeah, it's another barrier.
Okay, let me just do one thing. What we do in House Finance, which is maybe a little bit different than other committee meetings, we try to keep our emotions tampered down a little bit so that we can get to strictly the business part. I understand the feelings that we all have, but let's kind of watch that, please. Thank you.
and thank you, Chair. And I appreciate you not having an ammunition tax this year. You've relented. But I want to understand the policy. Is the policy that hunting and fishing is bad, so we want to tax it?
The governor's general stance last year and this year has been that there is a cost, and I think the term we used last year was a negative externality to guns. And so this is part of that.
Let me stop it right there. So basically, what this guy is saying that is they're trying to tax guns to make it harder for people to own guns.
Yeah, it's surprisingly common. It's all about increasing the barrier to entry. If you're someone that's never owned a gun but you think you might maybe wanna, if you have to pay all these extra taxes and fees and licensing and background checks and 7-day waits, which are all things we have here in Maryland, you're maybe not going to get into it, which is their end goal, is to keep you from owning guns.
Yeah, let's keep on going. Let's see what else he says.
Continuation of that policy.
I remember that conversation on negative externalities, and I recall that the negative externalities applied to ammunition, not to hunting and fishing. And so it's changed. So now there's negative externalities associated with hunting and fishing. I just don't know what those are.
It's around the guns.
So just guns in general are bad. So we want to find a way to tax them, even if we're not connecting hunting and fishing to those negative externalities.
So I think the
I'm just trying to understand the connection
No, I get
between
it.
the
I get it.
recreational aspect and probably the crime that the administration is saying is the negative externality.
the governor's position's been pretty clear on she would like to see less guns in the state and less use of guns in the state. And by applying the sales tax, particularly on the shooting ranges piece of this, would make it marginally more expensive to own a gun and use it at a shooting range. And she would like to discourage that type of consumer behavior in the state. I think she's been
Okay, so so basically they're saying they want people to be less proficient with their firearms, which actually makes it more dangerous.
Well, I guess that's one way, because the data doesn't support their points now. So I guess if you make people less proficient and less familiar, it might increase the chance of accidents, which provides them with better data for grabbing guns, right?
Yeah, right. This is very, very interesting. I'm going to keep on going with it.
very clear about that all 5 years, 6 years now that she's been in office.
So the belief is that by taxing hunting, fishing, shooting ranges, people will participate in the sport less and purchase less firearms.
Not as linear as that, but yes.
I just don't understand the connection. I'm just having a problem with it.
So the cost, to raise the cost of using a firearm, if you charge a sales tax, for example, at a shooting range, right, that raises, let's just for argument's sake say you spend $1,000 a year at a shooting range, then now you're going to have to pay $1,070. To the extent that discourages individuals from using a shooting range, that discourages them from using their firearms.
Was any analysis put into the proper firearm handling techniques that are taught?
Okay, I can't answer that question. No.
Yeah, I mean, wow. This was March 3rd. Is that accurate? Is that
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so that was just last week. I didn't even know Rhode Island had it bad like that. I guess
Yeah.
it makes sense. I guess it's the Northeast, but still.
Yeah. No. I can answer that question. Let's see what he says.
At shooting ranges and taught at hunting clubs that would actually make people safer if they had the knowledge that the trained professionals at the shooting the shooting clubs would impart?
I mean, it was understood that there's training, supervision, et cetera, that goes on there. We all understood that. The governor understands that as well. And this would not eliminate the use of shooting ranges or hunting and fishing or hunting clubs, et cetera. But it would, as you increase the price, right, the quantity demanded is going to go down. It would reduce some of that activity. She believes that is beneficial. Less use of firearms in the state.
Would the governor consider not imposing a tax on, let's say, a gun safety course that was given at one of these clubs? Would we want to tax gun safety courses too?
So that's going to really depend on how that particular item is offered. So if it's bundled with an actual shooting, ability to use and shoot and that shooting is a taxable item, then that safety course becomes a taxable item.
What? So basically, if you actually have to shoot on a safety course, then it's taxable.
Wow.
This is fascinating to me. I didn't know Rhode Island was going through this. Apparently, they are.
But theoretically, the tax administrator can always overrule me here. If it was offered separately and not tied to a shooting range or something like that, and it was educational, then I don't know if that would actually be subject to the tax.
Understand. So you're just focusing on memberships.
And the actual use of firearms at shooting ranges and hunting in particular.
Okay, I'm all set, Chairman. I'll probably come back, but thanks for your honesty.
That is insane.
So, I mean, so these people realize that if you're a pretty serious shooter, you might have an annual membership, and so they're just taxing the cost of the annual membership, or are they instituting a tax on how many times, like each time you go to the range?
It sounds like it's each time they're going to the range. And by the way, I think the Tyven Show is selling Lysol cleaners for $250 a bottle for Lysol wipes. So if you want some Lysol wipes or the canisters, so if you want some Lysol wipes, just reach out to him. He has them for $250.
Oh man, I'll have to take two. What a steal!
Yeah, in Connecticut, they actually have they actually are debating a tax. I'm not sure if it's passed or not, but a 35% tax on ammunition.
Ugh, raising that cost of ownership up, man.
And the thing is, it's going to hurt the people who are lower income, because I can afford it, but a lot of people can't.
So, sort of opposite of this, in Maryland this session, let me see if I can find in my tracker. There's a bill that would remove sales tax. Yeah, so here it is. House Bill 618, MSI, I'm supporting it. But what it is it's entitled Sales and Use Tax Exemption Firearm Safety Devices. So what this bill would do is provide an exemption for sales and use tax when you buy firearm safety devices, including safes, lock boxes, triggers or barrel locks, or any other item designed for home firearm safety. Now, that's crazy in Maryland. The fact that it received a favorable report in committee seems crazy to me, but it's sort of silver lining on some of these worst bills we have. Like, at least the politicians can see, like, well, hey, if we reduce barrier to entry on what are justifiably expensive firearm safes and stuff like that, maybe you'll have less accidents in the home.
Yeah, we have the same bill that passed down here for gun safes and stuff like that. Yeah.
That passed this session?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, you need a permit to buy ammo in Connecticut. So you just can't have it shipped to your door. It's like California, we have to do a damn background check. That really works. Now we need to stop all this craziness.
Yeah, right. I mean, so like I said, luckily in Maryland right now, there's no tax on ammo. There's not a proposed tax on ammo sales or anything like that. There's the standard, have to be 21 to purchase handgun ammunition and stuff like that. But you're not paying extra just for the privilege of purchasing ammunition for the firearms you may own. We do have what they call a handgun qualification permit. It was implemented with the Firearms Safety Act of 2013, where if you want to purchase a handgun in the state of Maryland, you have to be 21. You then apply for your handgun qualification license, HQL, and that entails a live scan fingerprinting, so the electronic fingerprinting. You have to take, I believe, 8 hours of firearm instruction. You have to pass a background check.
Yeah, I used to teach the class.
Okay, so yeah, so and what's crazy is if you have an HQL, you've passed your background check. If you commit a crime that would cause you to become a felon or anything like that, they yank your permit. But every time I go to the gun store, if I want to buy a regulated firearm, a handgun or something like that, I have to go through another background check. Why am I paying for background checks if I've already got the license that says I don't need another background check?
Well, breaking news, GOA has filed lawsuits in Michigan over that
Really?
today, like this afternoon.
Oh man. All right. Well, you know what? Add one for Maryland too. You know, don't leave us behind. Um, man, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it just broke today.
Awesome. So is that's at like the state level? You guys are suing the state for
No, we're suing the ATF.
suing the ATF? Okay.
Yeah, because ATF basically ATF regulation says that if a state has concealed carry permit or handgun qualification permit has the same or more regulations than than what's required to buy a handgun, which is a NICS background check, then the state does not have to mandate a NICS background check. The ATF has said through an opinion saying, well, since there's no guarantee that, people are going to obey the state law that basic, how do I put this? Let's say a sheriff in Michigan issues a concealed carry permit without doing the background check, even though the state of Michigan says that he has to. The ATF says, well, the sheriff might not actually do it, so therefore you have to run a background check because a sheriff might disobey state law.
Oh, what the hell?
So yeah, it's 7 different states have received this letter. Michigan, like Alabama, and a few others. So we are suing because that actually breaks federal law.
Well, hopefully it goes somewhere. Hopefully you can get a judge that's, at least understanding, the first time it gets to them. Man, that's crazy. Here in Maryland we have 7-day waits on handguns and stuff like that, regulated firearms. And if you want to purchase a stripped AR-15 lower, so 100% lower, stripped, no parts, you have to go and fill out what's called a Form 77RE, and that's the form for handguns in the state of Maryland. But because you can build a stripped AR-15 lower into an AR pistol, Maryland State Police has ruled, no, you have to fill out the 77RE, which is another background check, and then have a 7-day wait on top of it. So you pick it up the 8th day.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So, even if you went in and here's the other thing, because of the assault weapons ban that we have here in Maryland, if you do build an AR-15 rifle out of a stripped lower, you have to do it with a heavy barrel, like I was talking about earlier. Well, heavy barrel AR-15s are cash and carry, just a NICS check. So if you buy a whole AR-15 with a heavy barrel, you have your NICS check and you're on your way. If you buy the AR-15 stripped lower, because you have the option to turn it into a pistol, it's a 77RE and a 7-day wait.
That is freaking insane.
Yeah, and it's what the state police is doing in Maryland. It's similar to what the ATF, it sounds like, is doing in Michigan, where they
ATF doing it everywhere now.
Yeah, you just have these opinions that come out, and all of a sudden it's law and it's what everyone has to do. And these government administrators, they weren't elected. I never elected anyone to the Maryland State Police. I've certainly never elected anyone to the ATF. And they're writing essentially what comes down to a law, or at least policy, that people have to follow, with no due process.
Yeah, with the ATF, it's really ridiculous because ATF, a lot of the positions where they make these opinions, the people who actually make their opinions, they only give out their first names.
Yeah. Well, because they don't want to be held accountable. Would you, if you were making sort of BS opinions like this? I wouldn't want to be held accountable.
No, I mean, I wouldn't, but we have a good chance of winning, I think. But who knows? You can never tell with the court system.
Yeah.
But that's breaking news. That just was filed this afternoon. I will have a story up in the morning about it.
Awesome. I'll share it. I'll get it out there. There's one more bill that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
That is here. I mean, there's, like I said, I have 50 in the tracker. I could talk about 50 of them, but there's one more, and it's Maryland's ghost gun bill. So specifically, they call it the untraceable firearms bill. And this bill, I did an episode. I've recorded it. I haven't released it yet. Look for it this coming week with Control Pew. Sort of talking about 3D printing and stuff like that. But the entire goal of this bill, House Bill 910, Senate Bill 958, is to prevent people from manufacturing firearms by themselves in their own home. And so the way they do that is they say, if you're not an FFL, if you're not a licensed firearm dealer and you're not a licensed firearm manufacturer, it is a crime to manufacture a firearm in the state of Maryland. No more homemades. That includes 80% lowers. That includes 3D printed stuff. If you're not allowed to, if you're not an FFL and you're not serializing stuff as you build it, not allowed, period.
Yeah, it's really funny how all of a sudden this stuff becomes like a problem when people have been doing it for years.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can say is here in Maryland, it's been 7 years. It's 2020. The first assault weapons ban was 2013. I guess they had 7 years of sitting around going, man, what else can we ban? And, someone probably got up and testified at some gun hearing a couple of years ago and said, your laws don't do crap because we can just make them ourselves anyways. And, some legislator took that, ran with it. The 3D printing one is, it's really dangerous, I think, because it also bans the distribution. It uses the word distribution of a computer program that would build a gun or print a firearm.
Well, that's any type of thing that can run G code.
Yeah. And so the problem is if I have, if I, listen to what Control Pew had to say and I bought myself an Ender 3 printer and spent my $200 and wanted to start printing stuff, if this bill got passed and I then sent that file that I had for printing a firearm to a buddy, well, all of a sudden it's, I think it's 2 years and a $5,000 fine per count. And that's an infringement on First Amendment. If I'm not allowed, that's free speech. If I want to share, a computer file, that's, code's been ruled to be protected free speech. And now we're going down a road where, hey, maybe not in Maryland, not anymore.
Yeah, I'm just going to answer a question from Matt the Cowboy. There's multiple cases, but the bump stocks. SAF have one, FPC have one, GOA has one. So the people are getting different cases mixed up together. So yeah. So Connecticut already banned ghost gun bans, which is ridiculous.
I mean,
I have a ghost gunner. I'm not sure if I have a ghost gunner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Cody Wilson and I haven't talked to him since everything went down with him, but we used to be friends, so he gave me one.
Oh, man, I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, but then he fled. So, it's
that could be a whole nother episode.
Yeah, it's been another episode. Although he claims, and I believe him, that she lied to him for about her age.
Yeah.
So ID everyone, I guess.
Yeah, not the first time, won't be the last time that that happens. And, be smart. Be smart.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to definitely be smart out there, especially being in a high profile person like that. They're going to look at anything to bust you for anything. So, any good gun bills come out of Maryland besides the one you talked about?
So there's a bunch of good gun bills. They're not gonna get passed, I don't think. Well, there's one that might get passed. It's so here in Maryland, we legalized medical marijuana, and still according to state law, uh, if you have a medical marijuana card, you're not supposed to own a firearm at the same time because
Yeah,
the
well,
laws. Um,
federal law actually, but
Well,
state.
yeah, the state as well. And so the state of Maryland is, I think, poised to pass this bill that basically says, providing that a person may not be denied the right to purchase, own, possess, or carry a firearm solely on the basis that the person has been issued a medical marijuana card. And so I always support stuff like that. I know it doesn't do a whole lot at the federal level, but baby steps at the state level are always appreciated. Let's see some other good bills.
Yeah, I
Current-
mean, I agree that I think everything should be legal. All drugs
yeah.
should be legal. But that's
Yeah,
just
let people make their own decisions, right?
yep.
Another good one that actually had some pretty good support. It had its hearings last week. It was last Tuesday and Wednesday in the House and Senate, respectively. It's the Gun Theft Felony Act of 2020. Currently in Maryland, it's not a felony to like steal a handgun; it's a misdemeanor crime. And so, in Baltimore, there's a ton of murders, and the majority of them are being done with stolen handguns, more or less. Um, in 2018, 295 people were killed with a handgun in the city of Baltimore alone. And like, I think two of them or three of them were rifles, and then another 10 were shotguns. And 295. So 13 to 295 basically is the difference. So this bill is going to make it a felony to steal a firearm.
And that passed?
It's made it out of committee. It had committee hearings this past week, received favorable reports. So it's moving on out of there. The last day so crossover day.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, so crossover day for the General Assembly is March 16th. That's next Monday. And so what that means is by March 16th, bills have to cross from one chamber to the other. So there's going to be a big flurry over the next 7 days or so for stuff to get moved around and passed. And then sign die is April 6th. So, I mean, we're coming down the home stretch. There's not that many days left in the session for stuff to happen.
Ours is basically done. So I can start sleeping more again. We had the same type of bill that was going to try to increase the penalties for stolen firearms, and the Democrats killed it on a party line vote.
Not surprising. The first, I think it was the first committee hearing for this bill. The Democrats were very, very much against it. I know a couple of delegates that I follow were sort of ranting and raving about how, these Democrats want to ban people from owning guns, like law-abiding gun owners. They want to background check everybody, but they won't make it a felony, to steal a handgun. And so fortunately, I think some amendments were made, some concessions were made, and politicians politicked, and something happened. There's another bill. This is a bill that gets introduced every year. I know earlier I spoke a little bit about Maryland being a may issue state. This bill would strictly define self-defense as a good and substantial reason to be issued a wear and carry permit in the state of Maryland. It's not going to go anywhere. It never does, but it's another one to watch. Maybe there will be like an act of God and something happens.
Yeah, I used to have Maryland concealed carry permit. It's expired now, but I had one.
Yeah, it's tough. So in the entire state of Maryland, I think we have a population of like 6.5 million. There's only 17,000 concealed carry permit holders, and if your life hasn't been threatened, if you're not a politician or a cop, or regularly depositing like $10,000 cash at a bank, it's almost impossible to get one.
Or you have to transport firearms to teach
Yeah, right.
your classes.
Maybe I should become a firearms instructor.
That's how I got mine. I mean, I never renewed it, but it was because I just wanted to do it to win a bet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the state of Maryland's tough. And what sort of sucks about that is that, I can get a Utah permit or a New Hampshire permit or a Virginia permit, and none of those will work for me if I go to Pennsylvania, because you have to have a permit in your home state, which Maryland won't give me. So no matter what, I can't carry in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, which is crazy. Pennsylvania, let's say like Virginia, they don't recognize Virginia, but I have a Florida and a Virginia. But since I have a permit in my home state of Virginia and I have one in Florida, then I have reciprocity. It's kind of a weird type of thing.
Yeah, that's another one of the. Wasn't that the attorney general that came down with that decision?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's just another example of people legislating outside of the legislature.
Yeah, so it's really bizarre. Yeah, I met you in Annapolis at on the announcement of the Maj Tory tour. When GOA, GOF, Gun Owners Foundation, which is the legal arm of GOA, is teaming up with Black Guns Matter to have Maj Toure go around the country to different cities. One of the cities is Baltimore.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I was so pleased to hear that. I was super happy to be there, get to meet you, get to meet Maj in person, because I really appreciate his approach to the issue of gun violence in urban areas. Baltimore, St. Louis, I think New Orleans was on the list as well.
Yeah.
Where he seriously looks at firearms safety education. If they're going to carry it, at least teach them how to be safe while they carry it. And then additionally, conflict de-escalation. There's no reason for people to be getting shot over dime bags, is what I heard him say. And so I think it's great that GOA, GOF could get together with Black Guns Matter and make that happen.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Are you going to go to Gunathon on April 25th, or we're not all dead from coronavirus?
It depends. April 25th is getting on towards the end of my semester there. So we'll see. It's one of those things where podcasting is sort of a vent outlet for me. I care. If other people care and care to listen to me, that's great. Otherwise, I'm still going to do it because I was driving my girlfriend crazy talking politics all the time.
So now you talk politics on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And the people that want to listen can listen, and the people that don't want to listen just don't listen.
Yeah, I drive my wife crazy by not talking about politics, but talking about theoretical physics.
Slightly different hobbies.
Well, I was up one night and I was thinking about M theory, and my wife looked over at me and she was like, "It's the middle of the night. What's up?" I was like, "I'm just thinking." She's like, and she turns on the light and she goes, "What are you thinking about?" And I started explaining to her what I was thinking about. She reaches over, turns back off the light, turns away from me, and goes, "Good night." Like, but you said you wanted to listen to me. She's like, "Not about that."
Yeah, no, she thought you were about to have like some deep heart to heart.
Yeah.
You're like, but listen to these physics.
Yeah, Brandon Williams is going to be at the Gunathon. It's going to be a great, great time.
Where's that taking place? Shout out the details to that.
It's going to be April 25th at Silver Eagle Group for Not All Dead from Corona, in Ashburn, Virginia, which is 5 minutes away from Dallas Airport, right outside DC. So it's not that far away from where you live.
Okay, yeah.
It's going to be great. You can go to gunathon.com, and there you go.
Gunathon.com. Yeah, I'll have to put that out there. You know, I
Yeah,
know
pretty good.
people in Maryland are always excited to get out of the state to go do gun stuff.
Yeah.
We have a lot of laws, like we're not allowed to have high capacity magazines. Anything with more than 10 rounds, you can't purchase, transfer, manufacture, or anything like that in the state. But you're allowed to go buy it out of state and bring it back. So, you know, anytime one of us goes to Delaware, Virginia, or Pennsylvania, they come back with a couple more mags.
Yeah. A lot of good people are going to be there. Maj is going to be there. Hank Strange, Eric from IV8888, Tim Harmston from Military Arms Channel is going to be there. Jared from Guns and Gear. It's going to be freaking amazing. Jason David Frank, the Power Ranger, is going to be there.
Awesome.
It's going to be a great time. American Gun Check, a lot of good people and a lot of good speakers as well you're going to be hearing from. Dr. Miguel Faria is going to be speaking. A lot of really good. John Patton from the Gun Collective.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, man. I'm on the website now. I'm also seeing featured speaker, a Mr. John Crump. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
Gunathon was kind of my idea. So.
Well, there you go. Take the credit. Be proud, man. That's yeah. You've always got something good to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, I know. I know we talked a little bit about it. You know, when we were down in Annapolis, and yeah, I'll have to put it on my calendar. See if I can convince my girlfriend that we should make a day trip.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. You get to meet a lot of people. There's going to be there's going to be some giveaways there. Everyone who buys a ticket's going to get a swag bag.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
So it's going to be pretty damn cool. Tickets are going fast, which is crazy, especially considering, you know, with everything going on. But it looks like we're still going to sell out, which is a good thing, which I'm pretty sure we probably would be sold out right now if there wasn't like a pandemic going on, but whatever.
Yeah. What's the event capacity? How many people you having out there?
1,000 people.
Ooh, that's exciting. That's good, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and you can have a great chance of winning free guns.
Yeah, right? Like that's
And if you live in Maryland and you can't own the gun, what you can do is just give it to me. I'll take it.
Oh, well, that's perfect. You know, I mean, yeah, our band list is hundreds of weapons long if you count all the copycats and everything. You can't own a Tech 9 here. So even if I wanted to, you know, Control Pew has that sweet Tech 9 lower you can print. That's a crime here in Maryland.
I have a Tech 9.
Aren't you so fancy?
Yeah. You know what's special about my Tech 9?
What's special about that Tech 9?
It was made in the early 80s, so I can give you that.
Well, no, you can't. Because in Maryland, it's if you didn't own it or possess it before 2013.
So
that's straight up, like, it's not even a gun manufacturing thing. It's if I didn't own it.
Oh, no. No, what I'm saying, it's fully auto.
Oh. Well, I wonder if I don't think Maryland has any bans on full auto stuff. I wonder if that's a loophole. Maybe Maryland is telling me I should just own all machine guns.
Do it, man.
Oh man, I got tuition to pay for. I can't own all machine guns.
Yeah, it might help you. It's an investment. That's what I tell everyone. It's investing. It's going to go up in value.
Yeah, right. I mean, the stock market's doing all sorts of crazy things right now. I don't think machine guns are going down.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. Well, it's time to jump into the stock market right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, or you know, oil. I think we're going to see some cheap gas.
It's already come down.
You know, between
a
the Saudis and the Russians. I think we're going to see sub $2 a gallon.
It's it's already at $2 a gallon today. It dropped down at all the gas stations. I'm not sure, like, if you went out this morning and got gas, you'd be really pissed off if you drove around this afternoon.
Yeah, right. You paid like 20% more.
I bought gas like yesterday,
Mm.
and now gas is literally 20 cents cheaper than what I paid for it yesterday, which I'm kind of like, damn it. Which is in the long run, it's like $3, but $3 different total. But I'm just like, man, why?
$3 more worth of ammo.
Yep. Oh, see, look, it dropped down to $1.97 in Ohio. It's about $2 in Virginia.
I wonder how much. Who was that? Was that a guy's name John? Yeah, John Voorhees. Do you know how much you pay in tax on fuel? Like, what's your gas tax out there?
Maryland has a ridiculous gas tax, don't they?
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm gonna Google it real quick because I don't want to swear to a number that's not correct. So, Maryland state gas tax is 35.3 cents per gallon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I think federal is like 18 or 19 cents.
Yeah, because Virginia is 21, about 22 cents.
Yeah, so Maryland is 35 cents, 36 if you round up. Federal fuel tax is 18 cents. So if you're in Maryland, 50 cents per gallon of your gas is just going straight to the governments.
Yeah. Wow. Ohio is 38.5.
Ooh. Yeah. Hey, if you guys.
47%. Wow.
Who's that?
Diesel in Ohio has a 47 cent tax per gallon.
Yeah, I drive a diesel. Yeah, I know. I pay a little bit more tax out here too.
Yeah, that's freaking wow. Washington State is almost 50 cents.
Man, gotta pay for the road somehow.
Yeah,
how would we have roads if we didn't have taxes?
Oh wow. Illinois is 55 cents for regular and 61 cents for. Wow, that is insane. Pennsylvania is high. Diesel in Pennsylvania is 75 cents per gallon.
Okay, I take it back. Maryland's not that bad. If you're a Maryland politician and you're listening to this, the gas taxes aren't that bad. Please don't raise them.
Yeah. Well, in California, diesel is like 87 cents a gallon.
Man.
And they have the highest in the country, and it's like 61.2 for gas.
Wow.
That is insane. Alaska is cheap. It's like 15 cents, 14.4. But I wouldn't. But if you live in Alaska, you make money from all the gas. Everyone gets a share, right?
Yeah, you sell your mineral rights and you get a dividend, right?
Yeah, which is kind of cool. All right, man. It's been about a little bit over an hour. It's been an hour and 10 minutes.
All righty. Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, yeah, man. It was a lot of fun. It's been fun having you on here. Anything you want to plug? I know the link to your podcast is in the description, as well as your Instagram.
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can find me at the Free State Podcast. I really do focus more on Maryland as the national election's coming up. I'm going to be doing a little more about the federal presidential election and stuff like that. I post a lot of memes, so if you're into memes, check it out. Follow, like. Don't expect if you're like hardcore right or hardcore left to like them all, because I'm a libertarian and I piss everybody off. So on Instagram, I'm at the Free State Podcast. On Facebook, it's just Free State Podcast. You can like me on there too. I think that's all I have as far as social goes right now. If you want me to make a Twitter, shoot me a DM and tell me to make a Twitter. I don't have the people telling me to do it yet. Other than that, that's about it.
All right, that sounds very, very good. You were at a muster out in Franklin County.
I was
That's what someone saying.
not I. Is Franklin County in Virginia?
I guess, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not. What wrong, Mike? I know it's a common name.
Yeah, thank you, man. All right, guys. That's going to do it for tonight. I have a few other announcements before you go, but you know how to support me. The patreon.com/John Crump, or you can do a one-time donation at paypal.me, John /John CC. 25% off Gun Owners of America membership at gunowners.org/black-swan-media. And also, if you're on Facebook, join our Virginia group at facebook.com/group/GOA-Virginia. I will be back. Oh, Reed Hendricks. Okay. Yeah, Reed Hendricks. I saw that actually. I will be back on Wednesday night. We have a guy coming on who is a member of a board of supervisors that helped get, he helped get to a sanctuary passed in his county. A very, very pro 2A guy, also a firefighter. His name is Chris Cornwall, and he is from the Virginia Southampton Board of Supervisors. And then on Thursday, Holly Sullivan, who's the president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, is going to be talking to us about what's going on in Connecticut with all these crazy stuff like the 35% tax. And that's about it for me. I want to thank you all for staying on. And yeah, and that's all I need to say to you guys. And you guys have a great day. All right. I will see you back here on Wednesday. Tomorrow is Boy Scout Day.